Corey Swargas here for the Strike Zone with Big Jeeves. How you doing, my man?
What's going on, Corey? We are back. Power Slap 2 is done and dusted. And man, what an experience we had, eh?
It was phenomenal. You know what? Seeing everybody come out, the celebrity power was great. It was great to see, a wide range of strength disciplines coming out there, and the fights were unreal. Top to bottom, we're seeing the evolution of Power Slap, where we've seen, 7 out of 10 fights in Power Slap number 1 ended in a KO. This time we've seen a lot more matches go the distance. We started to see more of the gamemanship, the strategy playing into slap fighting, and the evolution of the sport, right in front of us. Great to see. There was a ton of upsets. If you bet on this card, it was probably a very hard night for you. I mean, even people on the inside, who thought they knew really didn't know. And, even looking back at guys like Steve Will Do It, definitely took a hit on their betting line that they were doing. But I know this episode for you is near and dear to your heart. You've got a ton of different strength training background that you apply into your fitness, regime. So kind of get into it and let's, let people know what they can expect from this episode.
Yeah, man, like you said, this one's special to me. So we saw a lot of cool things at Power Slap 2, but for me, the coolest thing was seeing the world's strongest men competitors come on for the inaugural super heavyweight fight with Dane and Slap for Cash. So this collaboration, I like seeing it because, man, I've been watching strongman as a kid, and seeing these monsters on stage with these other monsters was, man, it was quite the spectacle. Kudos to UFC Brass and Power Slap Brass for making this one happen.
Awesome. Mr. Ray D, run that motherfucking intro.
Yeah.
All right, let's bring Nick Best in here. Let's get it going.
What's going on, guys? Jeez, Corey, what's up?
What's going on? Nice to have you with us. Like,
great to be here.
I want slap fans to understand. This is Nick Best. This is a 10-time world's strongest man competitor. You've earned yourself the title of history's strongest man. We'll get into how that happened, but let's. We're just happy to have you on the show. We got to see you participate in Power Slap 2 leading up to it. You guys were practicing at the Apex and stuff like that.
Yeah, I got the catch guy.
Right. The big guys. We're here to catch the big guys. It makes the most sense.
So, how do you practice and train to catch these big dudes?
Basically, shield carry works out really well, and also Zercher squats would work out pretty well because you're going to catch them in the crook of your arms and kind of hold them like this and lower them down real nice and slow. So, yeah, and then you kind of cradle the head to make sure it doesn't hit the ground as well. But the stage is pretty soft. I was kind of surprised at that.
You guys might have to train Forrest Griffin.
I can do that.
Now, speaking of the shield carry, speaking of the shield carry, you actually hold the world record for the shield carry. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, 98.9 meters with 402 pounds picking it up off of the ground. That one at Worlds was 440, and I think I have the record on that one too. So
you could carry these guys if you had to.
Oh, yeah. At least 100 yards. No problem.
Nice. Well, Nick, some slap fans might not know is they see you here. They see the video playing for our fans following on YouTube and Rumble. But you weren't always 6'2", 325 pounds, strong as an ox. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your early days and what sort of got you into lifting and strongman, how that came about?
Well, basically, I like to play football. And my sophomore year, I was about 5'3" and about 130 pounds and needed to get bigger and stronger to keep playing football when I was moving up to varsity. And my friend Anthony Bach dragged me into the weight room, and I just got bit by the lifting bug and played football all through college. And then I power lifted in high school, won the state championships here in Nevada in 1986. And then went off to play college, got done at Sonoma State, went back to powerlifting, and the rest is history. Went from powerlifting to strongman in the 2000s, and just had a very long, fun career.
Nice. Now,
so that's kind of how I got started.
Yeah, so you got started, and you started with World's Strongest Man in 2006. And
I started competing in strongman in 2004. I became a pro in 2005. I made it to IFSA Worlds in 2006, which there was a split. finally made it to World's Strongest Man in 2010, competed 2010 through 2020, which in 10 times from the age of 41 to 51. So
Wow.
I started my strongman career at World's Strongest Man at 41.
At 41, wow. So
Yeah.
that shows the longevity and the grit that you have for this sport. You're not just doing this for fun, and you didn't just start like
Oh
right,
no, I love it. I mean, I love it. I live it, breathe it. I mean, it's a way of life for me, and I enjoy the process and the critical thinking, and just you have to figure things out on the go as you're doing this, because I mean, you could do one wrong move and rip your bicep off. It's very dangerous at the same time. You run down the street with 1,000 pounds on your back, stuff like that. It can cause damage, but if you figure out how to do it the right way with the best technique possible, as fast as possible, it's not so bad, but it's fun. I just have a ball doing it.
I want to ask you, Nick. So, like you said, you got into it kind of 41 is kind of where you turn professional. Is this a sport for people that like that get into their more adulthood? Like, does it take years and years of training to be able to get to it? I mean, obviously, like football, like you said, I mean, adults don't play contact football unless they make the NFL.
Right.
So by the time you're your early 20s, it's over. I guess one, was this kind of a competitive way for you to remain competitive and try to continue to push the boundaries? And then two, like, is this a sport for people that as they get into their 30s and 40s, is that where they normally excel, or are you kind of like an anomaly to that?
I'm a little bit of an anomaly, but you can still excel at any age. You can always continually get better at what you do. And you see a lot of young guys coming in, they excel, and some of them have very long careers. I mean, Brian Shaw was really young when he got in, and now he's what, 41 this year, and so he had a very long career. So I mean, it just kind of depends on the individual athlete, how many injuries you have, and how hard you want to push yourself. And if you push yourself at a methodical, slow but steady rate, you can last pretty much as long as you want. You just have to be willing to do all the things it takes to get there. All the pain, the suffering, the putting off. Guys are going out drinking and they're going to have a good time. I'll go out, but I'll be back early. I don't drink. I'll watch what I'm eating, stuff like that. So you go out and have a good time, but there's a very regimented life you're going to live to do that.
Nice. And you sort of talked about how like technique and making sure you're doing these movements properly and being able to adapt with some of the events that you guys get at World's Strongest Man and stuff like that. So I guess you can relate to what these slap fighters are going through, because right, like we saw in the John Davis fight, he ended up hurting his right arm. And we haven't seen that too much in power slap, where they have to switch arms and kind of strike with their left. So I feel like you, if anybody, do it, because we've seen these World's Strongest Man events. They're quite some of them were quite wild. So being able to adapt and switch and move on and keep doing what you're doing, I feel like you can relate to that pretty closely.
Oh, totally. When he hurt his arm, it was pretty obvious, that first slap, when he did it, the way his shoulder went down and everything else, you're just like, dude. And then turns around, the grit, the will. He came back and kept swinging with his left. I mean, it's the strategy there. And then his last one took with his right. I mean, there was no quitting the guy, and it's got kudos to him. I mean, that's pretty amazing. And he stood there and took all the hits too. So there's no getting around it. That's the cool part about slap, in my opinion, is there's no way to get out of getting hit. You're going to get hit. So it's not like you can get tied up and tie somebody up and kind of sit on top and smother them, get a couple hits in, ground and pound, get a couple hits in, and then tie them up for 5-minute round. You are performing, you're getting hit. There's no way around it. So it's kind of neat with that part of it.
Yeah, and it's similar again to your experience, because you can't fake strength when you're doing right. So like,
you can't fake a chin. You either have a chin or you don't have a chin. And I mean, we got to see with Slap for Cash, his chin is not so good. His swing's pretty good, but not so much the chin.
Yeah, let's get into that match a little bit, Corey, because this was the inaugural super heavyweight match, over 1,400 pounds on that stage in front of the table. and we had to bring in men who have proven themselves to be the strongest in the world to catch them. So, what did you think of that match, Corey? Did it live up to your expectations?
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible. I mean, there's a lot of hype going into it. I think the outcome was shocking for everybody, across the board. And we actually had a debate, Nick, about at what point does the mass no longer become relevant in being able to transfer that power into a slap? For me, I thought Slap for Cash's strike was actually less impressive than I thought it would be. He wasn't able to, he wasn't able to recruit the muscles from his legs, from his his hips, his torso, his back to be able to transition. I thought it was more of a shoulder strike than being able to actually rotate all the way through it. When you were looking at his strike, Nick, what did you see from his slap? And if you were to be his coach, for example, what would you kind of say to him?
Well, if I was going to be his coach, I would tell him, one, use that weight. Instead of stringing straight this way or stringing up, I would come down. That way you can use the body weight against it. Plus, your feet are planted, so you can't move your feet. All these guys that are swinging up, you see their feet leave the ground. They get the penalties, and they lose the point. Whereas if you're swinging down, your feet aren't going to come off the ground. But the angle doesn't have to be like down. It just your follow through. And you can use your latissimus dorsi as you're pulling across your body as well as your obliques and get more power actually into it coming down that way. So it's just kind of like a difference there. But with him, you see the videos of him slapping people and stuff like that go viral. His feet are leaving the ground. He's turning. He's doing all these things that you can't do up on that stage. So clearly he probably didn't practice as well or train for it as well as he should have. And paid the price for it. He didn't have the power that you see in the videos.
Yeah. How did the World's Strongest Man, how did this all come about with getting you guys into Power Slap? Did Dana reach out to you? How did that all come about?
I think Dana reached out to the people at World's Strongest Man, and they reached out to us, and they reached out to Evan and Trey, and I live here, so I get to go hang out with my friends and go do this stuff with it. So it's pretty cool to be able to go through all that with them. It was actually an honor to meet Dana White at the thing. So that was really cool, especially since turns out I went to the same high school he did.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, he finished his last year at Clark, and I graduated from Clark. So.
That's really cool. That's really good. You Vegas boys, it was a smaller city back then too, right?
Yeah, he was 86. I was 86. He was 87.
Wow.
So I graduated the year before he did.
Crazy. Looking at Dwayne Viernes, obviously Hawaiian background. I'm not sure if you've competed in the World's Strongest Man against any Samoans or stuff like that. Do you know? Have you had any experience of guys of kind of that descent and how?
Yeah, there's a guy named Tony Lieto that was an unbelievable power lifter in the 90s. That's from Hawaii. There's a lot of really good strength athletes coming from Hawaii. So they're big. They're warriors. They all the way around. They're a very warrior, strength-driven culture. So I've dealt with a few of them. They're tough competitors.
Yeah, they definitely are.
Well, and Grant Higa as well. Grant Higa's from that area. So yeah, I've competed against Grant in strongman and in powerlifting, both.
Yeah,
very cool. Have you competed against a guy named Hugo Girard?
Not against him.
Okay.
No, but I've met him once. Yeah, he's from Canada.
Yeah. I actually represented his supplement brand for a couple of years back probably 7-8 years ago when he was still relevant here in Canada. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he was a very nice man. Got to talk to him a little bit. I was supposed to go out and try to do a contest in Canada. It just didn't work out. But he's very influential in the world of strongman. He was really amazing back in his day.
Cool.
And a nice man.
Yeah. Let's go back to some of your accolades a little bit, Nick. You've done the 10 World's Strongest Man. You've done the Arnolds a couple times. You've done a smattering of other strongmen and even qualifying events here and there. But you've actually been dubbed history's strongest man, correct?
Well, the History channels.
Yes.
Because there's 4 of us that were on the TV show, so the 4 of us were dubbed that. Yeah.
Nice.
So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I personally watched every episode religiously, but for Slap fans, why don't you break down what you guys did on that show and why it was so epic? And some why it is so big, what you did on that show.
Well, we basically went to old time strongmen's, hometowns and stuff like that, did a history on them, brought it back to life, and recreated the events that they did. So, and then we myth-busted them at the same time. I mean, we had one that we found out wasn't, on the up and up, but all the rest of them, they were on the up and up, and we're doing what they did at their prime, having never done some of this stuff before. So it was a really neat thing to do that part of, historically, and to recreate them and get them the exposure in modern day and bring them to life to a new generation. So it was a pretty amazing experience, to be quite honest with you. I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
I mean,
the one thing I noticed
doing the carousel at Paul Anderson's boys' home was absolutely amazing at his place with his whole family on it.
Wow.
Was quite amazing. So go ahead.
Nice. No, I was gonna say the one thing I noticed on the show is you were the older guy, as you said yourself, and you loved proving these guys wrong and showing them that you can still do it and stuff. And I kind of see it with these strikers as well, where Power Slap isn't getting sort of the press or the media coverage that it so rightfully deserves, with all these guys putting in the sacrifice that they are to do this for our entertainment. So I feel like you can relate to that a little bit.
Oh, sure.
You always wanted to prove people wrong, show them that you can do it.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I mean, what they're doing is very entertaining, and people did the same thing when the UFC first came out.
Yeah,
I mean, there was big uproars when that first came out. I remember that. Boy, do I remember that. And all the things, and people were saying it's barbaric and this and that, and then now it's ingrained in the society, and it's amazing to watch this, just the training processes, all the disciplines that come together. Well, this is going to do the same thing, and the cool part is this brought in safety and rules to it that isn't there. Like talking with the fighters and stuff, and finding out that one of the guys did a 27 round match in another country. So you got slapped 27 times, where the most you're going to get here is 5.
Yeah.
Regular fights are 3, championship rounds are 5. And so it brings a lot of safety to it that isn't there. I mean, getting hit 27 times and then going to a decision is not safe for anything. Yeah. So it's kind of neat that they brought that element into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, obviously, World's Strongest Man and, powerlifting for quite a while has been, a niche sport. I know it's increased in popularity, and it's gone through waves. I mean, I'm sure back when you were competing, obviously I have a bodybuilding background, which I believe is a purely, highly successful niche sport, but it's still a niche sport in its sense. You're not seeing it on ESPN, you're not seeing it on Sports Center, any of that stuff. I'm sure as an athlete yourself, you probably went through, some negativity in the past. The sport as a whole has, dealt with some of the challenges, whether it be from the media, from the networks, acceptance, potentially being underpaid for what you're doing. Do you have any advice? Do you have any advice to give to the strikers that are in the sport now, or anyone who wants to aspire, having gone through it to where you are today?
Look, stay true to yourself. Keep doing your thing. And if you keep doing the best you can do and be yourself through all of this and don't change who you are, eventually you're going to take this and things will get better, and eventually you'll sustain yourself from it, and life will just continually get better. Have faith in what you're doing and keep following through with it, and eventually you'll get there. Learn from everyone. Learn from the media people. Learn from social media. Learn all the different avenues and the revenue streams that you can bring in from it. And everything is going to be okay. Eventually, it will keep building and building and building. And eventually, it'll build into a monster. It took strongman probably, I don't know, it's been going since 77. So, but the last 15 years, it's really come on strong. It's always been there. It's always been kind of getting better and better. But now it's really turning another gear. Well, this sport's going to do the same thing. It really is. So just stay true to who you are, put in the work, put in the effort, stay in the sport. Even when you're out of the sport, stay in the sport because you love the sport, and everything's going to work out for you. Just have faith.
Yeah. Just have faith and love what you do, and it'll drive you through. Yeah, we see that with the guys now. You're really starting to see who's really about this, and we
Mhm.
know that, like probably with yourselves coming up too, like they look to see who are the good ambassadors and who
Mm.
deserves this, or the platform. So you got to
Bingo.
make sure that you are on your game, because someone is always watching, and now with social media, tons of people are watching.
And always remember, somebody's watching everywhere that you go. There's a
Yeah.
phone everywhere that you go. So you have to behave and act that way. And I like being, I treat everybody the same.
Yeah.
As long as people come up to me and treat me nice, I'm nice to everybody. And I don't care if it's a CEO of a company or somebody down the street. They're all going to get treated the same. I it's just be good to everybody. It's just that simple. And you're always being watched. And as long as you function that way, you're going to be fine. And it's going to come back to you. When you're good to other people, it comes back to you. So just be good to people.
Mhm.
And the karma that comes from that will be good karma.
Yeah.
I love it.
I mean, you've been able to rise to the top, obviously, become an ambassador. You got on the TV show.
Mhm.
Have had more accolades than anybody else in the sport, really. But for the guys that want to make slap fighting a career, I mean, there seems to
Mhm.
be, they're almost at that precedent, cup. I mean, the cup of being able to make this a full time, but they're still working
Mhm.
their full time jobs. Do you have any advice for these guys on like what they should be doing, every day?
Mhm.
Things that you leaned on that allowed you to, ascend to the top of the mountain.
Yeah. So I worked for a beer distributor, two different beer distributors for 18 years while I was doing strongman.
Wow.
So that's a 55-hour a week job.
Mm-hmm.
And it was training, job, family, and not a lot of other stuff. I mean, my enjoyment came when I got to go compete and we traveled someplace, exotic, or we went to the Philippines, or we go to China or Iceland, or anywhere, Malaysia, stuff like that. That's where I got my enjoyment from. And so everything in your life needs to be set up based on that. So basically, go to work, take care of business, come home, eat, rest, go train, do what you're supposed to be doing that day, and then spend the rest of the time with the family. That's it. And then a few of the friends that lead you in the right direction, that help you compete, stay your friends. People that want to take you out partying and do things that's going to drag you away from that become acquaintances. You don't get them out of your life. They're just not as big as part of it. And if they do stuff like that, they're going to be okay, even if they're working full time. And if they get the opportunity to financially leave that, go ahead, do that. But it's filling in that time once you do that that's going to be crucial. Because now you have all this free time. It's not go wild and do all these crazy things. It's still focus on the job at hand. Now you have more of an opportunity to focus on the job at hand. So you're going to have more time for your rehab. You're going to have more time for ice baths and stretching and massages and training and weights and just all of it all the way around. Once you become a professional athlete, you have to do the things professional athletes are supposed to be doing, even more so.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean
So
that's definitely great advice. I've always been a proponent of winners win, and when you win, they can't deny you the opportunities. I'm sure you've gone
exactly.
through some struggles in your career, and I'll be honest. I mean, I'm naive to how strongman works, but if you don't win or you lose or you're in the bottom half, I don't know if you can get cut or you get dropped out of the circuit. I'm not quite sure how that works, but in
I can
regards.
explain it to you.
Okay, for sure. Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
Okay, so if you're an amateur, you go to amateur contests and
Yeah.
you try to get to where you can go to nationals
Mhm.
or pro-am. Pro-am, you're competing in with the pros, and the amateur winner for that gets their pro card. Or you can go to nationals and get a pro card from there. Basically, in the United States and around the world, Giants Live is the qualifying organization for World's Strongest Man. You'll eventually then get an invite to go to Giants Live. Or you go to official strongman games, which is their qualifier in the United States to get into Giants Live, and all. It's also all the smaller, lighter weight classes and the females' World's Strongest Man. So you'll get a World's Strongest Man title out of that, and the Masters. But you can go there in the Open and qualify to go to World's Strongest Man, or qualify to go to a Giants live show from there. The top 3 at a Giants live show automatically get an invite to World's Strongest Man. And the top, down to 4th or 5th, you still have an opportunity to get an invite to World's Strongest Man, because they invite 30 guys every year. So the winner automatically gets an invite back.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
that's kind of how you get there. It's a process. If you're really good and come out of nowhere, you can get there in less than 2 years, but you have to be on the money.
Yeah.
Crazy,
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah. So, but I mean, for guys, that get there, but don't get the success and the accolades that they want, and they're trying to fight to, kind of stay there. I'm not
You
sure
have to go
if
to a
you've
Giants
had,
live show and qualify again the next year. You have to go do the show.
Yeah. So
Yes.
relating that back to slap fighting, guys that have lost 1-2 fights in a row that may not have that opportunity to get back up there again. Drawing from your past, like what would you suggest that they do until they get that other opportunity? Like, is there things that they can be doing to help remain relevant in the sport and prove to, the brass of these organizations that they're worthy of another chance?
Well, keep competing. Keep competing, keep winning, because in the end, winning is what's going to get you there. So keep competing and going after it. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just saying.
I just saw you raise your finger.
Oh, sorry. No. I just wanted to say, like, the reason we're asking you these questions, Nick, and the reason we want to have strikers understand grit is because you haven't just had an illustrious career. You've dealt with a lot of setbacks, like whether it was your torn lat. I don't know if you want to talk about this, but you had a little bit of like a cancer scare, if I'm not mistaken.
No, not a scare. I had cancer.
You full blown, right? So
I had renal cell carcinoma. Yeah.
Wow. So this is why we're asking these questions, because even something as simple as injuring yourself in training, a guy like you really understands coming back from loss, from hardship in life. So this is why we wanted you to speak towards us. So go ahead.
Okay. So I did have renal cell carcinoma. We found it in October by a freak accident I had. I dropped a bar on my chest while bench pressing, which has never happened. It was almost like an out-of-body experience where it was ripped out of my hand and dropped on my chest. I had to go to the hospital. I had a hematoma and bruised ribs really bad. But during the CT scan, they had an incidental finding where they found a renal cell carcinoma tumor in my kidney that was a third of the size of the kidney.
Wow.
So it was pretty big. And we found that October 12th. They took my kidney January 3rd. The good thing is when they took the kidney, they took the cancer with it. So
there you go.
that was that. But they still had to cut my abdomen open. I still had this, the surgery. I still had to recover, still get my abdominal strength back, stuff like that. But I set a plan together. I executed the plan. In these weeks, I want to get up and move around. Once the blood vessels healed for the removal of the kidney, because all that has to heal, they seal it all off, but it needs to heal. I want to make sure I'm not going to put pressure on it for it to leak or anything, because you can bleed out. So I took 2 weeks and just kind of did very light movements, didn't really move around too much, just got up and walked for the most part. After that, when I knew it couldn't do anything, I started working on blood flow. I started going out and dragging a tire and doing step ups and doing things like that to increase blood flow, because blood in and blood out is what creates healing. That's how you heal. Yeah. And so raising your blood flow 2 or 3 times a day, even with light weights or just movement, is going to increase your healing speed. Sitting around doing nothing will always make it longer for you to heal. Yeah. I have a TENS unit. I put the TENS unit on it. I had the TENS unit sitting there. I do that like 3-4 times a day. And then I'll also, if I'm sitting there playing a video game or just relaxing, I'll put it on a very low rate. So it's still doing it, creating more blood flow, 9-10 hours a day, that type of thing. That will increase your healing, but you set a plan together and you execute your plan. At this time, I want to be here. At this time, I want to be here. Now, you make sure you can adjust your plan. So if it doesn't feel right, if something's off, you just take an extra day off and then come back and re-execute your plan. So, and it's a slow, methodical process, but you can get back to, you can recover from nearly anything as if you take that approach to it. And I did the same thing with my lat. I tore my lat off, got the surgery May 12th, And May 1st of the following year, I came back and squatted 821, deadlifted 744, and benched 462 in a contest 50 weeks later. So, which is unheard of, but anybody can do that. You just have to be methodical in your healing process.
Yeah. And this is what we're getting at with the strikers, and what Corey was getting at with the questions as well. Like, doesn't matter if you're coming off a loss, doesn't matter if you injured yourself, just put together a plan and let your obsession shine. Like, if you truly love this sport, you're going to do what it takes to get back to the top of your sport. And just don't give up, stick to it, like Nick keeps saying, and just keep putting in the work.
Train your jaw, train your neck. I mean, your neck should be, out by your ears.
Yeah.
The stronger your neck is, the better you're to take that impact. So, I mean, kind of like what they do for wrestlers and for football players when you're sitting there and you're doing neck drills and stuff like that to get a really big neck. My neck was 22 inches when I played football. It's still 20 inches now, but it's not where it was. I mean, I couldn't even dress shirt back then. Yeah. But it's stuff like that. That it's all the little things that add up to the big, the big outcome that make the biggest difference in the end. It's the small little things at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, being able to see these guys, actually compete, see them up there live. If you had to say, 3 to 5 exercises in the gym that they should be doing either for, defense or offense, would you have any recommendations?
Yeah. I mean, obviously for defense, you're going to train your neck and your jaw. I mean, I would definitely be biting down onto things and making your jaw stronger. 2, I would be training my neck. Like I said, simple towel works, having people hold the towel, stuff like that. Or if you can get to a neck machine or stuff like that, then get to that. But a towel is every bit as good as anything you're going to buy, because you can move it through all the directions and pull from everywhere to train your neck. I would train my obliques, train twisting movements, cable stuff, kind of like a golfer with a golf swing.
Yep.
Same type of thing. Pulling down with cable machines, stuff like that. As far as your lats go, working the muscles in your slap, or band work, same thing, band work, so you can increase your speed. But as that band gets tighter and gets tighter, all that force that's against it out here at the long part of your slap will make your slap stronger.
Yeah.
It's little things like that will make a big difference in the end.
What do you think about like fast twitch versus slow twitch muscle fibers? Should they be going for explosiveness, or should they be going more slow, controlled?
No, explosiveness. Everything you do up there is going to be explosive. You want to train, for the most part, sole explosiveness when you're training your movements where you're going to use your slap muscles. It should all be explosive, all of it, because there's no part of a slap that's slow. Have you seen any slaps that are slow?
Yeah.
The faster the slap, with the more power, with the more weight behind it. So I'd be getting my forearms bigger because there's going to be more weight in that lever as you're hitting, and more weight in your hands going to make it just that much worse.
Yeah.
So it's going to make a big difference.
And I think a one big gaping hole that we saw with this one, again, going back to that John Davis fight, is having to switch hands. Now, in strength discipline. Exactly. Right now in strength disciplines, when you're doing carries or even like over the bar bag work, you're using both hands. You're used to using both sides of your body. But now these strikers have kind of specialized on their chosen manual hit, right? So we saw that. And so would you say that strikers should probably start training both sides now?
100%. I don't know why you wouldn't do that. I mean, because it's at some point you can pop your elbow, you can pop your shoulder, and you're doing a movement where you're swinging fast. Things will break. I mean, we haven't seen a whole lot of it, but you're going to see it where somebody's going to snap a muscle, something's going to turn, to where it doesn't work right, and their joints like hurting. Yeah, you should be able to swing with both sides. Not to mention, if you swing right one time, left with the other, right the next time, left with the other, it's just going to make the guy more dizzy anyway. So, it's not a bad thing to do, to be swinging from both sides anyway.
Yeah, me and Corey have actually talked about that. Like, it would be mind blowing for the person taking the hit. If it's on his first one, he's like, all right on 3. and then they're like, all right, call your next one. And he says left 2 or something. I
Yeah.
think that would really be quite the strategy for a striker to employ.
Yeah, because you're going to be ready. You're mentally going to be ready to take it from that right side, and all of a sudden, wait a minute, left. It's just going to throw your head into a whole nother area.
Yeah.
It's like
speaking of that, like just throwing people off. I don't know if you know everyone's names yet, but do you remember the Alan Klingbeil and Vern Cathy fight where his first strike they went at it, but the second one he just came in super quick with it, and I think it was a situation like that where Vern maybe wasn't expecting the third one to come that quickly, and he just caught him really, really good.
Yeah, and that's part of the thing. It's like, okay, on one, bam.
Cool.
So it's measure and go. So yeah, it's different strategies. Go on 3, go on 2, go on 1. You know, just the measuring part. I mean, as soon as you're measured, you get the okay. Heck yeah, go as quick as you can.
Yeah,
you know,
and I think this is what's sort of exciting about the sport a little bit too. So you've done so many World's Strongest Men. You've probably seen the sport itself evolve. So now being at Power Slap 2, the excitement is there to watch this develop more because we've seen the rules get better, the different things in the just the background get better. So I'm super excited about that. I bet you are too after you've witnessed it once.
Yeah, after I get to go to the thing live, yeah, it's completely different from what you see on the quick little clips, you know, on social media. It's a lot more interesting and a lot more fun to watch live. That's for sure.
Yeah, if you're going to put on a show, you're going to bring it to Vegas. And when we saw Power Slap 1, we understood why they kept it at home in Vegas, and they wanted to put on a show. And you come to Vegas for a show.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. But I see it evolving as time goes. There'll be rule changes and stuff like that to make it even safer for people, stuff like that. But I mean, it's a neat, it's an amazing thing to watch people go do because it is absolutely entertaining. There's no doubt about that. Whether you like it or you hate it, you're still entertained.
You're watching.
You're not turning it off.
Yeah. Absolutely. So what can we expect of you coming in the future, both, you know, in the sport of Power Slap? Are we going to see you back again? And, you know, also what are you working on in your personal, professional life, strongman, you know, et cetera?
You know, if they want me to come out there and catch bodies or come watch or whatever, I'll go anytime. It's an absolute blast. It's an honor. So I would absolutely do that. For me, I'm going to do a powerlifting meet in September, and kind of that'll be my first meet back from the surgery, that type of stuff. My goal is to squat over 800 and a total over 2,000 for the 27th year.
Wow.
Trying to get to 30 years with that, because I don't think anybody's ever done that. So that's kind of my immediate goal. I actually want to total somewhere between 2,100 and 2,200 pounds in 3 lifts at this thing. I now know after my training last week, I'm definitely gonna be able to pull back to the 800s. So that'll give me the opportunity to do that. So I'm just gonna go execute my program and go have fun. And that's kind of the immediate future. I'll do another one in November when I turn 55 to break all the world records in the 55 class. And then probably from that point on, drop down to 275 from the 308s, drop down to the 275s and compete there. It's just a little easier on my joints and body and stuff like that. And then you never know what goes on with strongman after that. So we'll see how it goes. I want to get my abdomen back to 100% before I even consider anything else, though. So that's kind of where the future is going with that.
Do you think we'll ever see Nick Best on that Power Slap stage? Other than being a catcher?
Other than being a catcher, probably not. I think my wife would probably have a few words for me creatively.
Yeah. It's like, Nick, you've done a lot of dumb things, but this is the one.
But this is not something but I mean, I'll never say never with anything. If offers come in that are around the Hopthor and Eddie fight numbers, I don't know how I would say no to that. But I mean,
if Power Slap Brass is listening, we'd love to see a strongman match.
Yeah, if all of a sudden I'm making 7 figures, Yeah, I don't see an issue with that.
Yeah,
But
I mean, everyone's got their price, so we know it's a 7-figure deal before they call you. So if
correct,
Erica or
correct.
Frank is listening to this, 7-figure deal to get Nick Best up there.
Yeah. So and Frank was great. I mean, it was fun talking with
Awesome,
him
right?
and meeting with him and stuff. So it's a great thing. I seriously doubted he was going to offer me 7 figures to do that. But if they do,
Yeah.
I don't.
Hey, listen, don't put your jaw
Don't
on the
see it.
line like that, Nick. They might call you.
Well, and like anything else, like with the guys, we all 4 of us got back together and we did some stuff for social media, and we had a contest for axe throwing, and I lost, and I had to get my back waxed from that.
Oh, no.
So you make a bet like that, you got to put up,
You gotta put up, yeah.
you got to put it up, and I just said I'll do it for millions, so I'll do it for $1 million.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting dinner conversation tonight. Like, hey, I just kind of put it out there today.
Yeah, well, I'm sure she'll see this at some point and have a little talk with me, but she loves me. She doesn't want to see anything bad happen to me, so it's okay.
Yeah.
It's good to have a wife that loves you, so I'm not going to complain.
Is there anything you want to plug in, like anything you got going on personally? How can people find you? Is there like your content, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, all that at Nick Best Strongman. So, and then like Barbell Apparel, I pretty much wear everything from them. They take care of my clothes. They do my own personal shirts, so you can get Best Strong shirts. Age is just a number. Be the Best You shirts and stuff like that. There, Evolution Athletics. They're the ones that do all the equipment that I train in for strongman and for powerlifting. So if anybody wants to go support them, and First Form, they do all my supplements, stuff like that. And everything you get from them is pharmaceutical grade. So if you want to look into that as well, it's just can't say anything but thank you for my sponsors, World's Strongest Man and Slap for having me on. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Well, Nick, listen, it was an absolute honor running into you at Power Slap 2 and being able to do this interview. I really hope that this collaboration continues and
Me too.
we get to see more of you guys, because you are a wealth of knowledge when it comes to strength and strength sports, and just the information you've given the strikers today. I really hope that they take some of that in and really internalize it and take their skills to the next level in becoming the best strikers they can for Power Slap.
Yeah, I hope so too. And it's just going to be fun to watch the sport evolve. And thank you guys so much. Thank you for having me on.
Awesome. Well, that was Nick Best, everybody. I'm Big Jeeves. We got Corey Sweargas here. That was Strike Zone. And we'll see you next time.
All right.